Okay, good evening and welcome to another All in the Mishpacha. This week, Mishpacha magazine, Tale of Terror on Friday night. Report from the site of Neve Yaakov attack. This is unfortunately what happened about a week ago in Neve Yaakov. I'm sure everyone's heard about a terrible terrorist attack here in Israel. I didn't read the article. Um, don't want to read a sad article like that. But it's uh, tremendously terrible thing which happened. I mourn with all the other people that are mourning. I want to talk today about this shul with a view, a part to play. Happens to be it's a one page article. It's not usually longer than one page. It appears every other week, I think. It's written by Rabbi Ron Yitzchak Eisenman. The fact that he calls himself Ron Yitzchak, Ron, I don't think is a Hebrew name. Ron, I guess it's from Ronnie. Yitzchak Eisenman. I think I've seen a picture of this rabbi. Even in a couple of his articles, he's described himself as someone who wears a frock and maybe a Homburg or a black hat. I'm not sure what he wears, but he dresses the part, the rabbinical part. He's a rabbi of a shul in Passaic. I don't know his shul. I've never been to his shul. I've never met this person before. I do usually read his article because, first of all, it's only a page. And what I want to discuss today is it's a positive. And a lot of times I have problems with English Book magazine, but there happens to be a lot of positives with this person. Never met him, Ron Yitzchak Eisenman. And the fact that it's called Shul with a View because he's the head of a shul. He's the rabbi of a shul, and oftentimes in this column he discusses his intermingling with people in the shul and the stories he has with his congregants. He happens to be a pretty good writer. That's why he does this. I don't know if they pay him so much to do this. I think he enjoys doing it, and he's good at it. And it's decently interesting. Now, the messages he gets across are rabbinic messages. He wants, usually, it's his point of view, which is nice that he has an opinion about something, and he usually portrays the story from a view or projects it in a way where he's telling you some sort of Musar Haskel, some sort of lesson you want to take out about good midos, about proper Torah values, about learning Torah, about davening, doing chesed and things like that, which, is not my cup of tea. I'm not like that. I'm not the type of person. I'm not the type of person who gives Musar to other people, tells other people what to do. I like to say things as they are. I don't like to say, I'll give you an example from his column this week where he sort of takes a concept and blows it up, in a favorable way towards, the concepts, the principles that he believes in. But I want to focus on a positive over here is that he is a good writer, entertaining enough to keep me entertained for the one page, even though, it's not really the view that I would agree with. This week he talked about, it's not that interesting this week. I'll start off, a part to play. It was Sunday in December. I'm not a Manhattan person, and it takes a lot to get me to travel to, quote unquote, the city. It's read in quotes, the city, because, he's making fun of it. He's from a rabbinical perspective. Obviously, it's not the city. Lakewood is the city. Yerushalayim is the city. Manhattan is the opposite of the city. And no, it wasn't a fundraiser. Specific, it was to ensure a get was given. That's also something nice. He talks about, real issues like gittim, right? As a rabbi, of a shul, that's often something, unfortunately, a lot of people have to deal with, besides the fact people die, which is probably the most tragic thing. And officiating all the funerals, you have to deal with gittim and a lot of couples coming to you because who's the first person they're going to call when they have a problem in their marriage, especially in a firm community and they seek das Torah? They're going to call the rabbi. And the rabbi, he has a million jobs. Besides the fact he's a rabbi and he passes shilas, he's also a marriage counselor. He's also a psychologist. He's also a therapist. So, educator. So he teaches math on the spare time. Rabbis wear a lot of hats and they don't get paid for all those hats because I don't think they're qualified to all those hats. They're only qualified to pass shilas. I don't know why I don't believe in the concept of das Torah, to be honest with you. Even though this magazine clearly does believe in das Torah, and they have a whole panel of rabbis that ensure whatever is printable on their pages is legitimately fits into the das Torah. It's based on das Torah. They have rabbis. That's what it is. Of course, My channel is not based on Das Torah. It's based on Das Ben Sion Lang, because that's really what it is. My channel is just giving you flat out what my opinion is. I don't consult with rabbis in my opinion. Not to say I haven't consulted rabbis. I spent many years of my life consulting with rabbis, specifically the Yaakov Friedman, who was Rosh Yeshiva and the closest rabbi I had for many years. But I guess other rabbis, Yehuda Kelmer from West Hempstead, Yisrael Belsky from Torah V'das. I've asked other rabbis. I had a rabbi in Yeshiva University, Yonasan Sachs, Yaakov Konigsberg was a rabbi of mine. So I did consult with them for my formative years, where it was hard for me to make decisions. I needed a mentor, and they were good mentors. They gave me some good advice. Some advice I look back and say it was good advice. Some advice I look back and say it was awful advice. But so everyone in life needs a mentor when they're going through their formative years. But eventually you get to the age. Now I'm 40 years old. I think I have the ability, I have the life experience to form my own opinions. Comment whether advice I got was good advice or not good advice. But as the rabbi of a shul, I have to deal with a divorce. He says Beryl and Bracha wanted to get a get. Beryl insists that his brother, a high-powered, big-time liar, be present at the giving of the get. So he goes to Manhattan, and he's near, I guess, where the office is, and someone asks him, a man in his 20s approached and asked, "Are you the rabbi?" Though I was somewhat thrown by his usage of the definitive article, nevertheless I nodded. Now this rabbi thought he was the rabbi. So whatever. I'm not gonna say anything negative, but he thought he was a rabbi. So it's my first time in Yiddish. He told me, and I can't wait to see you in the play. So it turns out it was Fiddler on the Roof was playing. They were talking, and he says, "My name is Ben. My name is also Ben. I lived in suburbia all my life. I'm Jewish. However, I'm not what you would call a good Jew, quote unquote. Recently, I moved to the Upper West Side. I've noticed that my Jewish neighbors, especially those who look like you, all have access to some secret high-tech security device. Could you hook me up with this Jewish remote security system?" Now, obviously, right, Eisman thought he was talking about Ring, but, he had to be correct, and I'm joking. "What are you talking about? Come on, Rabbi, stop playing with me. You know what I mean. The rectangular box placed diagonally toward the front door. I know that some Jewish-only security system is activated by the touch of the right hand. I could clearly see the master playwright at work." This is what Rav Eisenman is writing. "Ah, the mezuzah, you're right. It is a secret Jewish security system. I knew it, so Rabbi, hook me up." I like how the rabbi writes, how they speak. It's good, He tells it to you as it is, a story. So he said, "Ben, do you have 20 minutes to spare before the curtain rises?" There's one, I'll point this out in a second. He uses the curtain rises because he was referencing the play, He uses words like that people in their 20s, Generation Z people would use, the curtain rises. They would never say the curtain rises. For the show would be the more correct way of saying it. To get hooked up with the system, I do. I grab Ben and walk with him to the law offices of, quote unquote, Mr. High-Powered Lawyer. Again, he wrote this in quote, Mr. High-Powered Lawyer, because obviously the rabbi looks down on people who are lawyers. High-powered lawyer. The only high-powered people are the Rabbanim, right? As we walked, I asked him, "Ben, how many doorways in your apartment?" Whatever. He told him 3 doorways. And then he ended up going to the place where the get was supposed to be given. He went to Rav Yankel the Sofer, who was going to write the get. He says, "Perhaps you have 3 mezuzahs to sell?" Rav Yankel broke into a big smile. "I can't explain why," he told me, "but this morning I decided to bring a few mezuzahs with me. I have exactly 3. So he had 3 mezuzahs. He took them out and handed them to me. I turned back to my young friend, "Ben, take the mezuzahs. Call me when you get home and I'll walk you through the installation. A special formula must be recited to activate them." He's talking about a bracha, right? You say a bracha that activates the mezuzahs. "Rabbi, what do I owe you?" "Nothing. More than you owe me, I owe you." So he wanted to charge him. Now, mezuzahs do cost money. They're pretty expensive. Mezuzahs, 3 mezuzahs. Plus he's giving them advice to how to install the security system, but he didn't want any payment. This is a point I would say, unfortunately I'm saying negative things, but, rabbis should take fees for their advice, I'm saying if the person really believes is giving you advice, should be taking money for it. what do you mean? One day you'll know, but like you can't pay me as I am the rabbi in the play. Rabbi Eisenman is saying this, I am the rabbi in the play. But I thought you said you weren't in the play, Ben said back then. Correct. I'm not the rabbi and the fiddler on the roof, but I now realize I was privileged to land the role as a rabbi in a different play. A mezuzah on the door. Like there's a new play, mezuzah on the door. Ben looked at me curiously. Okay. Then he slowly left the offices to go see Fiddler. Now, as someone who's a rabbi, the rabbi of a shul, he's somebody who has a different set of values than most regular people, even probably people in his shul who are working people. To him, from his other articles, he talks about Gedolim and Rabbonim. Those are like high-powered people in the world. People who get a job, they do it because they need to sustain their family. But I don't know if he believes they're on a lower level, but I think they're definitely not in the same category as the Gedolim or the biggest rabbis. What I like about the Rabbi Eisenman is the fact that not only is he willing to put himself out there, to put himself in Mishpacha magazine, which is highly controversial for, I believe he's a Haredi rabbi. I mean, he dresses like a Haredi rabbi. I think the picture I saw of him. So he looks like a Haredi rabbi. He projects himself as a Haredi rabbi, but he's not afraid to put his opinion in Mishpacha magazine. I also saw this new rabbi, Leuchter, who I went to hear him many years ago in Geula when I was in the Mir 20 years ago. The guy was fire. He was like brimstone, and I think he actually lives here in Telstone. I don't know, but he manages to get into Mishpacha magazine. He's even this way. Yeah, here we go. Ruvain Leuchter over there. I didn't read his article. Don't confuse your child's facts with the story. Apparently, he's very good in being mechanech your kids. So I respect a rabbi that's willing to do something a little controversial, because I know from the world of rabbinics, because I aspired many years ago to be the Gadol Hador. That was my aspiration for many years until my aspirations changed. So I aspired to be the Gadol Hador, and I would have second and third and fourth and fifth thoughts before ever putting myself in Mishpacha magazine. Because if you don't know, Mishpacha magazine is highly controversial in the Haredi circles itself. I believe a lot of Gedolim, including Rabbi Yashiv, said it's forbidden to read Mishpacha magazine. Not just on Shabbos, it's always forbidden through Mishpacha magazine. A lot of the Gedolim said it's in Israel. In America, they have a very different stance. I believe Rav Bender from from Darchei Torah is actually on the board of rabbis. He's considered a Gadol in America. He's on the board of rabbis who oversees Mishpacha magazine. But a lot of the Gedolim in Eretz Israel from the previous generation, I believe Rav Steinman, I know definitely Rabbi Yashiv said something about it, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach maybe, said very bad things about Mishpacha magazine. To this day, I know this personally because there's people in my wife's family who won't touch Mishpacha magazine because of what, and this shul I go in over here, when I bring in Mishpacha magazine to the shul to go give this shir, I have to bring it in my hand. I bring it in my hand, People look at me like, second thoughts over here, what do you bring Mishpacha magazine into a shul? Mishpacha magazine, even though people generally use it for leisure on Shabbos, there's nothing really bad about it. It goes all according to Das Torah. People look at it as like, it's Bittul Torah, really. For men, it's Bittul Torah. And for women, they don't like, because it legitimizes people's other thoughts, right? That's what Mishpacha magazine, it gives you what to think about. I like Mishpacha magazine because it gives all different opinions, at least if you're in the box. Opinions in the box of from Haredi Judaism, it gives different opinions. I mean, you can ask questions, you can have different opinions. Of course, at the end of the day, you accede to Das Torah, but you can articulate your opinions, you can articulate nice stories, and it's always good to hear different people's opinions. That's one of my favorite things is letters to the editor, where a lot of people, Mishpacha magazine even publishes a lot of letters, which, people come out against Mishpacha magazine. I'm cutting off my subscription with you, or how dare you put that in the magazine, But they'll publish it in letters to the editor because, it actually looks good for them that they're giving a voice. They're not just silencing people. They're giving a voice to people that might say something against them. And I think that's great. Of course, they always publish, one letter that says amazing things about the article and other things. How could you put this article in? They never just put, one letter to the editor that was a terrible article. They always have to balance it. But the fact that they're publishing letters that, say vehement, views against, things that the magazine says or opinions that are given in the magazine speaks to, I think, what makes Mishpacha magazine a very readable and enjoyable magazine in terms of whatever's in the box. So the fact that this rabbi is willing to go, or any rabbi, there's a couple of rabbis that are willing to go out on a limb and go in a magazine like this, put yourself in a magazine like this, not just to read the magazine, to go public and put yourself in the magazine and write a column every other week in the magazine, is putting yourself out there. And the reason I like it is because you're making a decision in life. A lot of people will read Mishpacha magazine because they're undecided. Is it what the Rabbanim say? Is it what Hashem wants? Is not what Hashem wants? He's taking a stance. He's taking a firm stance. He's making a decision. He's saying, not only he's saying it's okay to read Mishpacha magazine, he's saying, I think it's a great thing, Mishpacha magazine, and I will contribute to its success. I'll write an article. So number one, he's going out there on a limb, making a clear decision that he thinks it's okay to read Mishpacha magazine. He legitimizes Mishpacha magazine. He writes well, and using a talent also. He's a good writer, and there's a lot of people in the frum world who don't use their talents. They were given so many talents, whether it's an art, whether, I had a Rosh Kollel come over to me the other day, and he's showing me like his artwork, and he really draws well, but he's afraid to put it out there because he even told me that one of the Gedolim told him that art is bittul Torah, and I don't believe that's true, because if you have talents and God gave you talents, you should be, there should be ways to use those things. You might want to, be careful how you use those things, but every talent and everything that God gave you, He gave it to you for a reason, and that's to utilize it, and either to make it better, or to actualize it. It's not only important for the beauty of Hashem in the world, because He gave you a talent, He wants you to use it, but it's important for you becoming who you are and feeling success in life and feeling satisfied with who you are. Because if you have a talent and you're not using it, you feel stifled a little bit. And the third thing I want to bring out, this is even more important, and this is something, because there's a lot of Rabbanim, there's a number of Rabbanim that go out, especially American Rabbanim, that go in Mishpacha magazine and write articles in Mishpacha magazine. It's not really that big of a thing. What's unique about this thing is the way he portrays himself in his stories, and he sticks to his character. He doesn't portray himself as Joe Cool or something like that. He portrays himself as the rabbi who, people would look at him as a nerd. They would like, pardon the expression, but because he doesn't know anything about the world, he looks down the city, quote unquote, high-powered lawyer, quote unquote. He doesn't know so much about the world. He maybe didn't know that there was a possibility of a show Fiddler on the Roof wherever he was going. But he knows what he is. He knows that he's not cool. He doesn't pretend to be cool, but he takes his part in the story and represents himself accurately. And I think a lot of people, not just Rabbanim, but the people in the Haredi world, they try to cover themselves up. Either they'll go learn, they'll sit down at a Shabbos table. Instead of sitting there and being quiet and trying to add a little bit that they do know to the conversation, because unfortunately, if you're bottled up in yeshiva, you're a rabbi, you're an avrech, you don't have access to the world was going out there. You have limited experience from your youth, especially if you grew up Haredi. So you have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to contribute to the conversation. Most conversations are not about ksuvo stuff, Yud Beis, or ksuvo stuff tet. So, most discussions at Shabbos tables are about other things, about worldly things. And I've seen personally a lot of people come to these tables, they take out a sefer and start learning. When I was younger and I was in yeshiva and didn't know anything about the world, and I had, I was introverted, I sat there and I tried to contribute what I could. And, it wasn't embarrassing, but I stayed true to myself. And I knew, listen, this is who I am. I'm not afraid of who I am. I'm not cool. I'm just going to be myself. I'm not afraid to be myself. And that's a really important thing. It's not, you decided you want to be a rabbi, you decided to be the rabbi of a shul, you want to decide you want to put an article in Mishpacha magazine. You can portray yourself in a lot of different ways, but he portrays himself accurately, what he really is. And he doesn't overly make fun of himself. He just portrays himself the way he is, which I think is great. And, I don't know what it's like at his Shabbos table, or he goes to someone else's Shabbos table or someone else's house. But I'm sure he's the type of person that tries, even though he doesn't know so much about the world, to contribute to the conversation, and be part of what other people are talking about, as opposed to, either, looking angry at them or falling asleep or opening up a sefer and saying, I'm holier than thou, I will not talk about mundane things. He seems to be the type of person, I could be wrong, that, will try to contribute, like what I used to be when I was younger, where I would, sit around the table and try to contribute a little bit, but, mostly remain silent. maybe I was a little bit of a loser or something like that. But the important point is I saved myself because I was true to myself. And that's the nice thing about this Ron Yitzchak Eisenman, calls himself Ron. He legitimizes his stance as a person in this world. He's not just a sefer. He's not just, encyclopedia of halacha. He's somebody that's a real person. He portrays himself accurately. I didn't like at the end, this is like the Gedolim books do this, the person thought there was a high security system with the mezuzahs. I think it's important to be truthful and say, listen, these people, they don't have ring, which actually, maybe actually, alerts the police or something like that. This is, a spiritual type of system. We believe this to be true. And you're supposed to make a bracha. There's no, let's say the way to install I don't know, maybe the guy was playing along with him. It seems like this guy was playing along the high security system. I don't know. But be honest with the person about Judaism. This is what we believe. You put mezuzahs in your house. They're supposed to protect you. There's sources. It doesn't say in the Torah that it protects you, right? It doesn't say that mezuzahs protect your house. I mean, there's sources in Kabbalah, maybe in the Gemara. But, so it's sort of a protection. But when you're introducing someone to religion, and that's what he was trying to do, Makar of this person, and he wanted him to say the bracha before he put the mezuzahs up, be honest. And, people look back at that and they say, wow, this person was honest with me. He told me what Judaism believes, what, Haredi or religious Judaism believes about mezuzahs. He's telling me the facts, as opposed to going along and saying some sort of security system. And this guy, he'll find out later that, wait a second, there's no security system. They're doing this for religious reasons. There's no guarantee it's going to, protect my house from thieves. There's plenty of people who have mezuzahs that burglars break into their house. There's plenty of people that don't have mezuzahs that burglars don't break into their house because they have ring. So the point is that always be authentic with somebody. But leaving that aside, because that really goes into, he tries to, because he has an opinion, he's trying to project his opinion into the story. And I have no problem with that, So I don't have a problem with his opinions, even though I don't agree with a lot of his opinions. But, I think just to focus on those three aspects that this person, the positive aspects of this column, that he has a talent, which he uses, which is a pretty good writer, which is enough to keep me entertained, even though it's something I don't agree with his opinions usually. Usually you want to read opinions that make sense to you, not opinions that keep on, going against you. He's very big into hashkacha pratis. I am not a big fan of these Pesach Kron or these Living with Amuna books, where they paint the prettiest picture of everything, like when they talk about 9/11 or something like that, and the person who couldn't come, he had to come back to his house because his wife wasn't wearing a sheitel and she was locked out of the house or something like that. So he had to come home and he was saved from 9/11. I'm not really into those stories because, for every person that was saved, there's another Jew, another person who's also, Salomon Elokim, who, he wanted to stay home. For some reason, an urgency came and he went to 9/11. Don't always paint a rosy picture in life. Paint an accurate picture in life, and that's what I believe to be true. You always want to paint an accurate picture in life because the truth is the truth. And if you want to be a real person and you want to really connect with people, you have to be a truthful person. And if you're not truthful long enough, you're going to fool yourself, and you'll end up, even deep inside, you're not going to know the truth from falsehood. So it's very important to be true to yourself and to know the truth and to speak the truth also. But what the positives of this article and this column by this rabbi is that he's using his talents. He writes well. He's making a clear decision. He's putting himself out there to be a Mishpacha magazine as a Haredi rabbi. And number three, the most important I think it is that, which a lot of Rabbanim, even who in Mishpacha magazine do, he's not putting on a facade. He's telling you accurately who he is, and he's telling you how he acts and how he is. And maybe it's not cool to act like a rabbi, and he's telling you, portraying you accurately how that's the way he believes he wants to run his life. He wants to be a rabbi of this shul. He believes he's helping a lot of people. I'm not here to judge him. Only God can judge. But I do think that it's a nice thing that he's able to be true to himself and portray himself accurately. I think he portrays himself accurately in the stories in terms of him relating with other people. And I think that a lot of people who are in the frum circles, who are in the rabbinic circles and Avrechim, who don't have what to contribute to a regular people's conversation. They try to hide, either to fall asleep, to be silent, look down at people and criticize them for speaking lashon hara. Everything's lashon hara, right? If you talk about anything in the world, right, or anything financial on Shabbos is forbidden, right? Even though the Gemara says clearly you could talk about how much you paid for something. The only thing you can't talk about is how much you're going to pay for something, how much you plan on paying for something. We talk about prices in general. Talk about how much you paid for something is completely mutter. The Gemara in Shabbos says everyone thinks you mention dollar, the word dollar, all of a sudden people tune you out. They yell at you. You mention any word, you mention another person's name, lashon hara, lashon hara, lashon hara. Why are they doing it? Because they don't want other people to have an advantage over them. They feel weak because they're saying in the Shabbos they're not able to contribute because they don't contribute to the table. So they either go to the sefer, I'm not wasting my bittul Torah to stay with you, or they look the meaning way, or they try to the worst way, try to shut everyone up at the table and say lashon hara, or talk about business on Shabbos. Unfortunately, people do this. Or to fall asleep, do what I did when I was younger. For 15 years, I did it. I sat at Shabbos with people's Shabbos table. I wasn't married until I was 35. I went to a lot of people's houses. I was in yeshivas. I went to people's houses all the time. I didn't have much to contribute. Maybe a couple interesting experiences in my youth, when I was more involved with the regular world. But I didn't have much to contribute. But I sat there. I tried to contribute whatever I could. I didn't take a sefer out. I didn't fall asleep. I didn't, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing, but the end result is that I was true to myself, and to this day, I'm true to myself. I am who I am, and that's my YouTube channel here. I say exactly what I say, what I believe in, what I believe to be true. You could argue with me, you could disagree with me. I would love to hear people's comments. They don't really comment so much on my videos. I think people will probably hear my videos are a little shocked at some of the stuff I say. They're too shocked to even write comments back, or maybe they're fearful of retribution for putting a comment out there, either agreeing with me or to even chas v'sholom to put their name in a comment to disagree with me. People are afraid, but it's shocking to me that more people are not watching my videos. But even more shocking is that people that do watch my videos don't even comment on my videos, because if there's anyone's videos that deserve comments, it's mine, because I take very authoritative and clear, and I take one side of an opinion. I'm a very opinionated person. You can see in my Lang for Your Buck news, I take the main current event stories. I give my opinion about them. Not usually not the mainstream opinion. I have very clear, decisive opinions about everything. And of course, it should be controversial because everyone has opinions. So leave your comments if you're listening to this and you agree. There's definitely a lot to agree or disagree with what I said. I told you a lot of opinions today about this author, this person who writes for Mishpacha magazine, and my feelings about a lot of different things in Judaism. So if you're listening to this till this point, you're still listening, you better write a comment and either agree with something or disagree with something, because it's pretty hard to listen to 30 minutes, 28 minutes now of me and hear all that I've said and to not have an opinion about what I said. I make it very easy for people to have opinions, to formulate opinions, either for me or against me. So let's hear some of those opinions. Hope you enjoyed this week. See you next week.